Here is my PCX, new front tire, new rear tire, and I'm waiting on a belt. And yeah, that cover's painted white because I was scanning it. I got a 3D scanner and I wanted to see if I could make a replica. So right now I am doing like tires on all my bikes. So here I got a new tire on this thing, and I'm going to show you in this video how to change the tire on the front. I even have the tools here. It's exactly the same for changing the front on the PCX. Same size, tools and everything. And yeah, you need new tires. Once you put in a new tire, the bike feels automatically so much better. I got this bike with the tires already worn, so definitely worth looking into it. And then probably in a later video, I'll be changing the tire, the front tire on this. I really am trying to sell this thing. It is a great bike, but right now I'm not doing a lot of riding on it. It's mostly like scooter riding. And honestly, I think my style of riding off-road is more suited towards this. Forest roads and stuff. And I do not like having tubes on tires. So these do not have tubes on tires. And let me show you what you need to do to change a tire on a ADV150, which is the same as a PCX. On this left side, you have a 14 millimeter. You need to get a wrench, put it on that side. And then on this side, you have a 19 millimeter. And then you're going to have to undo that. And you're also going to have to remove the caliper. You know, just loosen it up, remove it. We're using two 12 millimeter sockets and just kind of pull that out. 12 millimeter here. Just loosen it up. And that's done. And now this one down here. Boom, boom, boom. So that's loose. I'm going to leave it for now. And now we're going to come down to here, which is the 19 millimeter. And I have an extra long wrench here. And when you crack it, the other side actually moves. I'm going to put this here. And I'm going to go to the other side on the 19 and just kind of push it like that. And it is gonna, there we go, it's gonna loosen it up. And that's the axle. So now I felt the give. I can almost move this using my hand just by twisting the nut like that. But you know, there's another thing we have to do. And I'll show you this trick that was told to me. All the bolts loose. The calipers are still hanging. Another thing you have to do is not let the calipers hang because you could potentially damage this hose. So this is loose. The axle here is loose, but the wheel is still on the concrete. And there is a trick to this that I had no idea worked. In other bikes, I put blocks under the bike to kind of lift up the front, but there is an easier way. And this is why you have a bunch of weights here. I have a bunch of water, and this is what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to put just a bunch of stuff on here and weigh it down. And if you have a bunch of weights, all the better. See, it's not moving yet, but you want it to remove the weight like that. So it needs just a little bit more weight. Water, sure, it looks a little silly, but you see the bike has now moved. Put another, so you can see it is high off the ground. So this is a great tip. It keeps things high up. So now you can see how far this bike has gone. Look at that. So the front, and then you have a bungee. Have a bungee handy because we are going to be seeing if we can hold this up just like that. I just have it. It doesn't have to have anything, but we'll do this afterwards. I'm just doing this to illustrate what we got to do. So we're going to remove this bolt. This is a 12. Remember, I've already loosened it up for them, really. You just got to be able to kind of move it up a little bit. Coming easy. Here's the 19mm bolt. And one thing now that you have to do, come to this side, that's the axle. Lift up a little bit on the wheel to relieve pressure from the tire and slide out. This axle would have to grease. There's hardly any grease on it. And we're pretty much done. There's 2 spacers on each side. I like to make sure that I put them back all in the same area. So this one right here, it's still some grease on there, which is good. We're gonna have to grease the holes. This, you see there's some grease in there, which is good. Grease in there. And now we're gonna remove the tire. So it's kind of cupping. It doesn't give you a good ride quality. And I do have a 14-inch tire for the bike that I'm going to be putting on. At this point, we're going to remove the air from the tire. Loosen this cap. Do this. You just deflate the tire and remove it so no air. It completely just drains everything. Makes removing the tire much easier. To do. I have some water and just some soap, and I like to put it all over the tire. And you know, I'm looking around, and yeah, this tire is definitely due. Even if it's got thread, one of the things that happens with older tires, it starts to crack, and this one was starting to crack. I actually had the same issue with the front tire of the PCX. It was already extremely old. You know, old tires, they're hard. They actually wear out, take a little bit more time to wear out because the rubber is harder. You're gonna need tire tools. I have a bunch of tire levers. I have these long ones and these short ones. They actually all of these work together really well. First thing I'm gonna do in all of these tires, I'm gonna put my tire tool here. I'm just going to push it down, like all around. And I'm doing this one-handed, so I'm going to put it away. But just do this throughout the tire, and I'll even push it down like this, and I'll take some soapy water. I'm just going to make sure that it goes into those crevices. But, you know, it is a pretty soft tire, so I don't think we're going to need to do too much on here. At a certain point, when you go all around the tire and push it down, you should be able to take this tool, for example, push it down, and then take this tool, flip it over like this, fit it in here, and if it doesn't go in, you need to make it go in just to keep going back and forth like this. But once you do that, you put it in, and you can break the bead. Go all around the tire, push it down. Now, I don't have a tire tool. I just have these little tire levers. And that's how I change all my tires. And I'll put some soap. And now, I'll just see if I can grab it from here. You have to break the bead. Some people have different ways of breaking the bead, but once you grab it, there we go. You see that? Now it's grabbed. And I'm just going to take another tire tool and do the exact same thing. So I'm kind of going back and forth here. There we go. So you can see it's already off. Didn't take too much. The older the tire, the more difficult it is. So that's one bead, and there's another one on the other side. So we're gonna have to redo that for this side. Same thing, kind of push it down. Sometimes you'll be lucky and just be able to fit this one in here. Yeah, and it did go. It did hit it. You know, the reason I do this is because in this area, it's really expensive to change tires. I never understood it because they have machines and they could charge a little bit less. So here comes that bead, and that's that. We should be able to now pop it out. So now take one of your tire levers this way, and what I like to do is put it behind the rotor. That way, so I put it behind here. That way there's some pressure, and now I'm just going to take my other tire levers and start removing it. Work my way around the tire. It's coming out pretty easily on one side. There we go. And now just go around the entire tire, getting it out. Putting it on is going to be a little bit more difficult. There's another one. And it should pop. Okay, one side is off. One thing I'm going to show you right here is a lot of times when you balance the tire, there's a dot here. You put the dot of the new tire with the stem. What I do is I put this large tool like this through the rim to the other side, like that. This kind of goes down, and now I basically twist it like this as much as possible, and then I take my tire levers and just kind of push it on the side. Now, there we go, and that's that. It just came off really easily, and that's the old tire. So that's how you remove the tire. Don't throw it away just yet. We are going to be putting this one. The rotation is going to be important. This, I like to put my wheel like this so I know the rotation. I know that the brake is on the left side. I'm going to look for that arrow on the new tire. And it's this way. So the arrow is going to be, we're going to rotate this way. So when I do that, I'll just put it like this, and then we can align it later on. Before I do that, I want to make sure I get plenty of that soapy water and put it all over the tire. Tire levers. It helps to have warm weather, and today we are having some decent warm weather in the DC area. There we go. One side is going to go much easier. The other side, when it gets tighter, that's the part that will be a little bit more difficult. Let me just take this one out. Get this slided in. Sometimes it's a little hard to slide in. So there we go. That's one side. And now you can align it, the stem to that arrow or to the mark. And now this part on this side, before you flip it over, this is something that I had to learn the hard way. You want to push this as much possible down to get it off the bead so you can get it onto the other side. But you're going to have to start working this way, this into the other side. So just take your tire lever and just start fitting it. At a certain point, it's going to resist going in. And this is when you use your feet, or a friend. Hopefully a friend will be much better to have than your feet to do this, but I'm alone here. So it is going in. This is the part where it starts to get tighter. And also there's these things called protective rim tape and plastic. You can just cut a bottle. That way you don't scratch your rim. But you know, I'm not that into that. My rims are always dirty. But some people are into rims being extremely scratch free. Alright, now this part you'll start to see some major resistance, and there is a way to get it going. So at a certain point this happens. So go around and push down on the tire to get it off the bead. This part will save you a lot of time. See, I just pushed it down and it came off. That's going to give us a little bit more play to get this onto this side. Man, it took me so long to learn that. Like, nobody tells you that part. And then we're going to flip it over if it's too tight. Also keep using that lube, whatever you're using. Put it here. At a certain point, it's going to get very tight. Okay. I think at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to flip it over, and we're going to get it off the bead on the other side. This will get it so we can move it onto the other side, and then we'll worry about getting it back on the bead. But this creates a little bit more play. So now flip it over. We're going to have to use the short ones because the rim is too small. And now push this down. You see how it's going in? Took me so long to learn that, guys. So long. Oh my God. I remember doing tires, and it was just taking forever to do. It would take me days. And that's it. The tire is in. That's actually a very quick tire change. And in this area, this would cost you $100 to do. All right, guys, the tire is in. Now let's put that valve in there, because now we have to inflate it and make sure that it seats on the bead, because sometimes it doesn't want to do that. I'm going to take that little valve, then use my tool, and we're going to tighten this. Tighten it down. I have a compressor. There's a couple of things that we're going to have to learn. Let's turn it on. So just to understand, the tire is going to be off the bead. If you're not able to inflate it, you have to somehow move it backwards. There's two ways I found. One is to have a hose that's a direct line of air into the tire. I've used that before successfully, but for this, in order to get it back into the bead, I just used the tire levers. I went around like this and kind of pushed it on the middle part into the bead, and it went pretty well. So we're going to find out if it's going to take the air, because sometimes you inflate it and it just does not want to pop. And I have my hose here. Now you have to listen for 2 pops. That's the bead on each side. If it'll go, if it won't, I think I hear air going in, but I think my hose, sometimes my hose gets tangled up. Let's see. Is it inflating or? Yeah, it's inflating. I just didn't hear it pop. Let's add a little bit more air. You want to hear a pop, make sure that it goes in, but sometimes it doesn't if it was already towards the edge. Alright, so, and I've inflated the tire and no pop. You like listening for the pop because that's the seat beading, but sometimes it won't do that. So I'm at 30, I'm going to put it at 35. 34 is what it calls for. And of course, 12,000 miles on the ADV. It helps to have really nice tires. Front one lasted 12,000, which I think that's a pretty good amount of miles. One thing I'll say as well is that make sure you lube that axle and then clean it up afterwards. And then on the other side, just make sure you torque all of these bolts to their spec. And then go out and ride. It's going to feel like a completely different machine. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.